Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about protein overfeeding. And one of the better studies I've seen on this is actually done by a personal friend of mine, Alex Leaf. He and his wife have been friends with me for years. They're great people, actually. But he was involved in one of the biggest protein overfeeding studies, and you can actually Google that term, protein overfeeding, in Alex Leaf and find his data. But the thing is, if you're looking to improve body composition itself, protein overfeeding seems to really be the way to go. And what do we mean by protein overfeeding? Adding large amounts of protein beyond what we need to gain muscle. And that's the thing when we're talking about protein. People will always talk about this, and I'll talk about this. Hey, how much protein do you need to gain muscle mass optimally? Like, what seems to be the cap? But the cap for gaining muscle is not the cap for improving body composition, and that's the most interesting point. What we usually see in the scientific literature is at about 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight. So if you're, about 100 kilos, which is what I get up to when I'm holding the most water and stuff, sometimes obviously a little less, I compete lighter. That's about 160 grams of protein. And people will say, well, that's not hard to get. And it really isn't. That would be considered a high protein diet, but nowhere near what some athletes, bodybuilders, people like that consume. But the research is pretty clear there that when you were trying to maximize muscle growth in a calorie surplus, right, that seems to be the amount of protein that anything beyond that doesn't really cause additional muscle growth. So then we all say, and I've even said, well, if you're just trying to make gains, it's all you have to have. All right, no need to worry about tons more. But here's the thing. If our goal is metabolic health, our goal is minimizing fat gain, what you find in some of this overfeeding data is that sometimes body fat goes down slightly. Okay. What we do see with the protein overfeeding is that even in a calorie surplus, the muscle to fat ratio improves. In other words, oftentimes this is the only one of the few times you see lean gains. Because, that always comes up, and I always point out, well, you have to be in a calorie surplus to gain, and if you gain a little fat, your muscle growth is going to happen faster. That's true. But when we start protein overfeeding, it seems to cause us to accrue less body fat. It also improves our metabolic health quite a bit. Better metabolic health. In other words, we can consume more calories. You guys see where I'm going with this? In other words, people who have very high appetites, protein overfeeding will let us eat more total calories while gaining less body weight from it. And by overfeeding, meaning we go way beyond that number. You might, instead of saying the 160, you might add another 150 grams. You might eat 250, 300, 350 grams. Okay. What we find in those situations, overall energy turnover relative to it is different. You have a higher thermic effect from it. But what we also see is better nutrient partitioning. And so what ends up happening is that when some of these protein overfeeding studies, some of the people gained muscle, gained body weight that was pure muscle. They actually did get some lean gains. The problem is how many people are going to eat 300 or 350 grams of protein. That's the hard part, getting people to consume that much. But if you do, it's actually possible to make muscle growth gains that are entirely lean. In some cases, people lose body fat. There are some cases where people see an actual recomposition effect from this who aren't even always novice lifters. Right? So there's if you're trying to maximize body composition, protein overfeeding is the way to go. Particularly if your dietary fat is on the lower side, right? Particularly in that case. and it tends to work well. And it kind of flies in the face of some conventional wisdom with calories in, calories out, but for some reason has to do with the way the body processes it. All the anabolic benefits. So you're not necessarily gaining more muscle from doing this, and that's the point that needs to be made. You're not gaining more muscle because that seems to be capped at the other end. You gain less body fat. Or in some cases, you lose more body fat while still recompositioning to some extent. It allows this to be a more viable option. And recomposition is not easy to achieve, and it usually comes with some sacrifice, and it's not advisable to most people. But that is a sort of scenario to where you can facilitate this. And I know people who do this. I know coaches who do this with their people. So that's the thing with it. And then what else? Well, the overall metabolic benefits. Right? Your total TDE goes up. You get a higher thermic effect of your food. Metabolic health in general improves. Well, what else? How about things like connective tissue recovery? Right? Our tendons, our connective tissue tends to recover a little better on these higher protein intakes. So someone who is getting a lot of tendonitis, get a lot of inflamed tendons, increasing your protein considerably may be a potential cure. Now if you're doing other stuff to help with it also, tendon work and things, hey, great, even better. But yeah, tendon health seems to be a factor here. Skin, hair, nails. There's a lot of other benefits that come from the higher protein intake. Right? How about even bone density? Potentially. High protein diets seem to actually improve bone density even more. They seem to help. Again, contrary to what goofy vegans will tell you, right, that it does the opposite. Well, they're wrong. The literature does not support them. So when we start looking at it, what are the benefits we get from protein overfeeding? It's not that we're going to gain more muscle automatically, right? That's not it. It's that we can reduce the amount of fat that we gain while gaining muscle by doing it. We can therefore improve overall body composition considerably better. And then we have the fact that there's these other metabolic benefits. There's benefits for your tendons, right? It's all kind of a big deal. Makes it a wise thing for people to consider if your budget will allow for it. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.